I want to move into the issue of the AFP raids on journalists. You're both journalists. I made it clear in my editorial. I see myself as a media commentator / lawyer. I'm very much on the side. It's not a raid against Annika Smethurst per se, in my view. It's about going into her records to try and find out who was behind the leak. And I guess I fear if leaks aren't dealt with, no one in the public service is going to have confidence to throw up ideas where we do need to change processes for fear of them being leaked and then being shut down prematurely. Scott Morrison and Anthony Albanese had a bit to say about this today. Let me just run them together. We'll start with Anthony Albanese.
Democracies rely upon freedom of the press. Annika Smethurst is a serious professional journalist who has my respect. It is quite frankly, I think, outrageous that 7 officers spent 7.5 hours in her home.
We have clear rules and protections for freedom of the press, and there are also clear rules protecting Australia's national security, and everybody should operate in accordance with all of those laws. I support the powers that the agencies have under our laws.
What do you make of it all, Stephen Wardill?
Oh, look, it is just a fact of life for journalists that if you write these big stories, then these kind of things could happen. It's happened to many journalists over the years, and this debate comes around time and time again that somehow journalists should be protected. I do sympathise with your view, Peter, that it has to be protected in terms of what the public servants are offering in the way of advice. But I think there is a long and checkered history of the AFP and other authorities at a state level being very heavy-handed and chasing down leaks that have nothing to do with national security, nothing to do with keeping Australians safe. But it's all about political embarrassment. It's when authorities start chasing down those kind of leaks and using their power to crush freedom of the press that I take an issue with.
Yeah, look, and that's a fair point where it's been an abuse of power by the AFP. Of course, they take it upon themselves to conduct these raids. The government doesn't ask them to do it. It's all within the remit of their own statutory powers. Andrew Clennell, I guess my point was if this idea had gone up to ministers and ministers said, yeah, let's go ahead with it, it would have then gone to the parliament. We would all have seen it. It wouldn't have been a case of a whistleblower doing the good job of highlighting corruption or something covert that people are trying to slip through. It would have been voted on. You would have seen it. You would have been sitting down in Canberra reporting on the very issue. It was a dumb idea. It was knocked on the head, but someone leaked it anyway. Now, that's I think, the travesty in all this.
Yeah, not surprisingly, I disagree with you completely here, Peter.
You go for it. Go for it.
I've been the subject of federal police investigations when I was a press gallery journalist in Canberra, and they looked at who I was calling from my home and spoke to some of those people, and, on occasion they're just friends. But, they might be in the public service, so the cops go and speak to them. I mean, haven't they got anything better to do with their time? The notion that this Annika Smethurst story was some massive threat to our national security is just BS. I mean, basically, what do you guys want? Us to just print press releases? And, the federal police, this is way over the top, and it seems to me that, often they think they just do what they think will please their political masters.
Yeah, but it's not about Annika Smethurst. It's not about the journalist. It's not.
Well, no,
she's not.
Well, I'm not making it about her either. I'm not making it about her either. But I'm making it about freedom of the press.
Yeah, but talking about
Peter,
printing,
what do you want?
press releases.
Do you want us to never get a leak again from a bureaucrat? Is that what you would like?
Well, hang on. There's no you and us here, mate. We're both in the media now. That's the first point. But secondly, no, but my issue is not with Annika Smethurst printing the story or the paper printing the story. They will do whatever they do when they get a story as good as that, sure. My issue is with the person down in the bowels of the bureaucracy that bowls up this idea that gets killed off immediately from the ministers and then leaks it anyway. That means that no one's going to bowl up ideas, and a lot of the time technology in this area moves so fast. Well, I've seen it before on the inside. And I also know how many people put their lives at risk around the world to collect surveillance material, and what we just throw it out there, a bit like the WikiLeaks stuff. I don't know.
No one's suggesting WikiLeaks. But look, I mean, I think the change here and what's interesting is traditionally the feds would go for the source. And in relation to the ABC raid today, it seems to me they have arrested someone.
Yeah.
So what they're doing now, rather than just go for the source, is go for the journos. And
no, they're probably
why?
going for the source and proving transmission to the journalist. I suspect that's what they're trying to do.
Do it at the source's end. Do it more at the source's end.
May well
because
have done
I don't think the Australian public will appreciate this, apart from what you or I think, Peter.
Yeah, well, I think the evidentiary proof will be required at the journalist end. But anyway, as I said, neither of us get confidential information and briefings anymore. I certainly don't, so I'm only guessing here like everybody else.